Hey y'all, once again, welcome back to the layout. Today we have another layout update for you, and I'm really excited to finally make this video and share it with you guys. And that's because we have a lot of new things which are done on the layout, but also because those things are things that we've been talking about for years and years, and that's the operational rotary dumper over at the coal plant and paper mill, and then trees on the peninsula. So I'm about to show you guys those things. There's a few other parts of this layout update, like some operational lights and building interiors, some really neat signs which we've added around the layout, and then some location and signal placards which we've added as well. So we'll get to all those things, and I'm not going to save the best for last. I'm not going to make you watch the whole video. That's annoying. So let's get ahead and head over to the peninsula, check out the trees, and then we'll go straight to the rotary dumper and check out how that works as well. And we'll finish by showing you a couple of the things that I mentioned previously at the end. So here's the peninsula. We've installed about 1,000 super trees by Scenic Express, and before I say anything else, I just want to say a quick thank you to Arthur Bradley from Bradley DCC. He's a professional model builder, but also a great friend of mine, and he came over for the week to hang out, and during our time here, we also built 1,000 trees and installed them. So it was a lot of work, but a big thanks to him for the help. And let's go and take a look at some of the details of this scene and kind of how it separates the different scenes and really brings this part of the layout to life. So before we installed these, and one thing I want to mention real quick was we noticed the forest floor looked just a little bit too green. It's not bad, but we ended up going back here and adding some dead leaf and foliage to the forest floor, which really brings it to life. I think it looks a lot better. You can judge for yourself than right here. This doesn't look bad, but it definitely looks better once you add that forest floor material. So that's made by Scenic Express. I'll put a link to that in the description. So we're gonna probably, if we can, try to go back and add that to this little section here, which we had done previously. So as I mentioned, these are super trees by Scenic Express. So we had to build them, and we actually made a how-to video for how to build these trees and install them. I think it'll be hopefully helpful for you guys. It's really not that hard, it just takes a little bit of time. So here we added a little bit of kudzu. It's kind of growing up onto the trees on each side, just like you'd find in real life. We also did that so that you don't have to worry about breaking any trees while you go to switch that switch. Here's our operational crossing. I need to do a little bit of work on this. I need to install the lights and LEDs on the gate arms, and then also just fine tune the motors a little bit. So that's coming. I just didn't quite have time to get to that this week. And a little update to this scene here. It looks a lot more realistic now that it's separated and now that we have trees in the background, but this is actually going to be a little wood chip loader. We're going to have a conveyor belt coming over the main track here. And this is pretty much going to be a lumber mill. You know, ideally, you know, if you use your imagination, you would have logs out here which are chipped and milled down into lumber. Those are shipped out by boxcar. And then we have wood chip cars here. And one thing the reason we wanted to do that is we thought it would be neat to have an origin here and a destination, the paper mill up there, for loads on the layout, just like we do with coal loads, even though they're not going to be live wood chip loads. But it'll be neat to have that for operations. Another thing, like I said, we ran just a little bit shy on trees. We made about 1,000, but we ended up being about 100 short. So we wanted to just add some really small trees and foliage here along the outside of the peninsula. So you'll notice that's not quite done yet, but we wanted to wait until we finished the middle before doing that so that we didn't run out and we didn't damage anything on the outside while installing everything on the inside. So we still have to go back and finish that. You'll notice that as we walk around the layout. But these trees really do bring it to life. They add a lot of new scenes. You can see it just, I don't know, brings it to life. That's all I can say. It adds a lot of realism. Here's the little country store and rafting store, which we have down here in the middle. The last thing we need to do is add water to the river and some rapids up the hill there. And also some lights. We're going to add a little street light over the intersection there, and then some lights to the store there as well under the porch. And, you know, maybe a couple other lights on here in the peninsula just to add night operations as well. A little bit more kudzu here on the far side of the bridge, which we recently added. And in my opinion, it's just a lot more fun to run trains now because you have a lot of depth to these scenes as well. You know, you can look here. This is one of my new favorite scenes. Watch your train cross the bridge and you have, you know, 5-6 feet of scenery behind you without any train tracks. It just adds a lot of realism. I also added a few details here, like these no trespassing signs. I'll show you some other signs that we installed around the layout as well. And I'll put a link in the description below to the company that I bought those from. You can see here the river kind of separates from the tracks, which curve off to the left and really goes through the canopy and underneath down there. Those are going to be some rapids, and we'll have some rafters on the river as well. And then we've installed a couple more trees on the outside here. and some low trees here on the inside of the curve. And the reason we did that was just so you can really see your train as a whole as it kind of comes up the S-curve here. Also so that, you know, operators, or in theory, engineers on the trains could kind of see the signal there at Coleman as they come up the hill. So you can see the train will come out of the tunnel, and this is the section really that we ran out of trees. We need about 50 to 75 more trees to finish this up. And it'll probably be lower trees too, so that you can see the high fill and the kudzu, which we've installed there as well. So here's the trees on the peninsula. It looks really great. Be on the lookout for a couple more videos of trains operating here, because it kind of creates an opportunity for a lot more scenes and shots now that all this is done. I also mentioned the rotary dumper. I just want to mention kind of how this is going to work real quick, and then I'll actually cut to a part of the video that we took when we were first testing this, and Grayson's going to explain a little bit more how that works now that everything's in and operational. So real quick, we're actually going to build a structure over this. It's going to be inside of a building with an open face, and then lights inside so that you can operate it at night and see everything. We'll have a big coal pile there in the back, and we can unload about 6 cars at a time. But before we do too much scenery work here, we're going to test it out for a couple months and just make sure that everything works, so that just in case we need to take it out and work on it a little bit, we can do that without having to damage too much scenery. So that's coming, but it's operational, so let's go ahead and cut over to that first clip of us testing it, and Grayson will talk a little bit more about it and how it works. And a big thank you to Grayson for really designing all the electronics and the functions of this thing. Him and my dad worked on a lot of hours getting this thing ready, so big thank you to them, and excellent work. Really excited to share it.
All right, guys, so this is kind of the first run of the dumper here. Got everything hooked up, everything working. So if you've watched the other videos, you know. If not, basically we're using gravity to feed the cars down to the dumper. It clamps it, holds it in place, rotates it, dumps all the coal out, lets it go, and it's all controlled with a push of a button. So without further ado, got a set of cars here, and we're gonna go ahead and run these through.
And this is the first set of loaded coal cars going in, so still working out some tweaks if you see anything go wrong, but fingers crossed it'll go right. Oh. So you can see what's going on here. When he pushes the button, the lift track will lift after the brake engages. The clamp will come down. It'll rotate. Back to home position. Brake releases. Clamp releases. And the car rolls out. So again, brake applies, uncouplers on, clamp on, and meanwhile, while it dumps, the lift track goes back to the home position so you can spot the next car for unloading. And the clamp releases, the car rolls out. We still need to add a little buffer in here to keep it from bouncing. You'll notice that a little bit. And we'll be able to do a total of 6 cars. This track behind the dumper holds 5, and we can do a 6 before having to pull them out and position the next 6 cars. And that's how you unload a coal train, which is loaded by the flood loader down here.
Yep. So now that we're done, we'll pull in, we'll couple up, and we'll pull this cut of cars out. Stage them on an empty track, and then come back in with some more loads. Do it all over again.
Typically we run trains about 30 cars long to 35 cars long in the layout, so it won't take too long to unload a train.
And one more kind of neat thing is you notice right now we have cars inside the dumper. Watch what happens if I try to run it. It's going to fault out on us, and it's not going to let us run anything until we clear up. So,
and the reason for that is there's actually beam brake IR sensors here, and on the far side of the dumper, which won't let you run a sequence or rotate the dumper in the middle of a sequence while a train's or anything is in the way.
Right. So once we're clear, if I want to reset my fault, all I got to do is come down here and hit the button, and it'll reset, and you're ready to go.
And that's Grayson you hear speaking. He's the brains behind all of this. So kudos to Grayson for making this thing work. It's impressive. Another thing that I want to show you guys real quick are these new placards which we've installed in the layout. And these are location names for places on the railroad and signals on the layout. So I actually can't take credit for the original idea. I got that when we visited John Parker's BNSF layout. If you haven't checked it out, I've got a great tour of his layout. But one thing I really liked about that was that he had little signs that told you where you are, he had the track configuration, and it really just kind of helped new operators to the layout know where they are and where they're going. So I took that same idea and added a little bit of a Norfolk Southern and Southern flair to it. I designed these, I roughly designed them, so each one has a little track diagram here so you know if you're taking them siding or the main, and it has the location, and then east and west and where you're going on the railroad, the final destinations. I also added a little milepost sign to all of the ABS and intermediate signals, and that way you can tell if it's a control point or not, just like you'd find on the prototype. So as I mentioned, I designed the kind of rough sketch of how I want these to look, and then a gentleman named Shelton really made these look professional and printed them on some vinyl decals as well. So they really have a nice look, a nice glossy and professional look to them. It's a really nice addition to the layout. So we've installed these at all of the locations on the railroad. So I'll show you a couple of the ones here. You can see the track diagram is a little bit more confusing here at Murphy Junction. And this really helps operators know kind of where they are and where they're going. So you can see here we have a tunnel, just like you have a tunnel here. And that way you can tell if you're on main 1 or 2, if you're going to a different track. And it just, like I said, helps operators know. And that way if they're sitting at a signal and want to ask the dispatcher where they're going, they'll kind of have a better idea of that. So I'll show you a couple others as well. And as I mentioned, Len did a great job on these, and he owns a professional graphic design business. So if anyone's interested in something like this for their layout as well, I'll put a link to his business in the description below. But I just want to say thank you to Len for helping us with these. Here on the west end of Asheville Yard is the control point of Russell. You can see here we have the 2 yard leads, the double crossover, and the 2 main lines as well. Here's Mitchell, and we have them all across the layout. Like I said, it's just a really nice addition that helps operators know where they are in the layout. So big thanks to Len, and a nice addition to the layout. So up here at the town of Grayson, we've installed a Woodland Scenics plug-and-play lighting kit. I forget the exact name of it, but we've added a lot of lights to the interior of the buildings. We've added street lights, also a couple neat little LEDs here on the little control box for the crossing, and then a couple other lamps across the city as well. So I have the lights dimmed here on the layout so you can see them. And one thing we're trying to do is install operational lights to all the towns and places along the layout so that you can really have a neat night operations as well. So you can see there we have a little hardware store. To the left of that is a little bar with a couple tables and a little truck inside. Here's a coffee shop if you look closely. I even put some tables, a little coffee mugs and stuff on shelves up there, and even a little menu, which I just printed off and glued a little frame around it made out of balsa wood. Here to the left we have a little restaurant. You can see people eating dinner inside there, and then a couple of pictures on the wall as well. So just a few details like that, even though they took a couple evenings to do, really add a lot of realism to the scene and really bring it to life at night. So now that we're starting to install a lot of LEDs and lighting on our engines, this scene really just complements that when we run our trains through here. In addition to that, we have the working and crossing gates, which y'all probably seen before. A few other details which we've installed around the layout are just a lot of signs. These are made by Small Scale Innovations, and I've seen his work online for a while and was finally able to pick up a few of them, so they look great. Here's a Norfolk Southern no trespassing sign, which we've added a little access road. We've also installed a couple more crossings. We've installed another no trespassing sign down here at the yard offices, and these are real nice because they come built and assembled, and in my opinion, just add realism to the scene. These little details, when they all come together, really add a lot. Here's another small scene up here. Obviously, this needs a couple more 100 super trees, but here's the little rail greaser which we previously built with a little access road. A couple whistle post signs to let engineers know they need to blow their horns. Those are the old Southern style. And then some grade crossing signs as well. I'll make a separate video on a lot of different signs and details that we add to the layout, but just want to show these to you real quick. Like I said, these are made by Small Scale Innovation. I'll put a link to the description below, but in my opinion, just nice products and look good. All right, well, I think that just about wraps up this video. It's actually gone a little bit longer than I usually make these, so I apologize for that. But like I said, we had a lot of exciting things and neat things to share with you guys. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate your time. If you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Either my dad or I will. So like I said, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time.